Okay, so hey you guys. So I was just in the middle of filming, and my son came in, and it's an interesting process to try to make a video and have children at home and self quarantine and social distance all in one, but we're finding our way. So I think I finally am going to be able to make some videos for you guys. So before we get going with the practice, though, I wanted to share a couple of things. So I know the other day when I was talking about this time that we're in, and we can look at it on just the physical level that there's a virus. But for me, and I think for so many, what I've been trying to do is really seek God's guidance during this time, and to try to open myself up to what I feel He is wanting me to see or realize or learn from everything that we're going through. And so, one of the things that, I've got my puppy here too, so one of the things that I think is so interesting about this time that we're in is that it is the season of Lent. So what we're being required to do is to abstain and to really purify ourselves. And isn't it interesting that we're being forced to do that? And, I do believe that there will be spiritual blessings that come for all of us because by following, these requirements during this time. And so I think it's just fascinating that life is forcing us into this period of purification. And how interesting as well that the president today, I know, was saying that he had hoped that the businesses would return to being open on Easter. So I just thought that was maybe not all that coincidental as well. So, but in my own personal healing process here, one of the things that, and I will say that there has been moments where I felt a little bit compromised, and I'm fine, I'm healthy, but I felt the stress of everything that we're going through. And where I feel that first in myself is usually my breath. I feel like my breath isn't flowing with ease. And what came up for me, and I know I mentioned this in the last video, but what came up for me is that I really needed to speak the truth. And there was an area in my life where I had not been able to speak the truth. And I got pushed into a place where I felt profound hopelessness. And this was just last weekend because of everything that's going on in the world, and feeling like I was becoming more and more suffocated by not being able to speak the truth. And in the place where I needed to do this, I finally got to the point where I did speak the truth. And what I'm experiencing in the aftermath of that is that immediately I felt the weight of this heaviness that I'd been carrying just be lifted off of me. And I felt that I could finally begin to breathe again and feel God's peace again. And so, oh my gosh, this little puppy, she's finding socks. I just tried to hide one. Anyway, so that's what it's been about for me, is truth. And as I mentioned in my last video, forgiveness, tons and tons of forgiveness, love, so forgiveness for ourselves, forgiveness for others, and I mentioned radical forgiveness. I mean, forgiving it all, and loving all. And, one of the things that came up for me today is, finding my inner light again. And I know that I was in a situation where I felt like I lost a lot of my inner light, my inner spirit, the light of the Spirit in me. And I'm really seeking to feel God's light come back into my soul, into my heart, and everything. So one of the things, though, I think that's so interesting is I was saying to somebody the other day that it's not the virus that scares me. And again, I understand the seriousness. Lily, nope. I understand the seriousness of what we're facing. But we have to have a vision, and I do appreciate, the leadership for at least giving us a goal to work towards. And I know that they, have been talking about the cure being bigger than the problem or worse than the problem. and making sure that that doesn't become the case. And so I like this idea that we have a goal of Easter where, as in any season of Lent, with everything that we're going through, that we would hope that after this period of purification, we would begin to feel the light of what's good in our life again. And so I do believe that this time is putting us in touch with that. And but I did say to somebody the other day that what concerns me most is not a virus. And you hear a lot of discussion about, potential future viruses and things like that of that nature. And, I think what we're realizing is that we're living in a world where, that can exist. And hopefully, again, we'll become stronger than that. We'll develop immunity to it, and we'll be able to weather things much better going forward. But, what scares me is not this idea of a virus. It's humanity or lack thereof of humanity. And I had an experience yesterday where I thought to myself, I actually went to Target to pick up a couple of things, and I thought to myself, if social distancing becomes selective, then that's going to be a whole different enemy, so to speak. If it becomes culturally acceptable to selectively social distance, so we look at somebody who we think maybe is infectious, so to speak, or maybe there's just something we don't like about them, and it'll be interesting to see if that's encouraged on any level culturally in the aftermath of this. And I pray to God it's not. I pray to God that we can be the right way with each other, and I trust that we will be able to. But it's an interesting thing because, I know that. Again, what I've had to really be working through is just my own relationship with sin, and just finding healing and asking for forgiveness for the sins that I've committed in life, and the things that I need healing from. And when we begin to lose our touch with our own humanity, which, I was saying that Jesus really understood human nature. I mean, didn't he? Because he said, you without sin cast the first stone. Well, nobody could throw a stone. And I just feel like, we're in a time where we need to meet each other in our humanness. And, we need to understand that we are all seeking, or at least many of us, are seeking God's love, God's forgiveness, God's healing in our life. And can we meet each other in that place where we don't look at each other as diseased or things like that, but we look at each other, even on the other side of any threat of an infection, that we look at each other as connected, and that we're here to love and care and heal, and through connection, love and care and heal. And if it had not been for the help of a really good friend the other day who saw my suffering, and if she had not been able to be there for me, really, I don't know where I would be right now. So, it's a real thing. We need to not, when there's no longer a threat of an infection, we need to not let the threat of each other's, whatever we might say in life, like sinful, mistakes or actions or whatever it is that we all need healing from, be something that keeps us strangers to each other. I mean, and that's what I've loved about yoga all these years, is that, I've always felt like yoga is just so non-judgmental, and that you can come into a yoga class and you can really be known and seen for who you are. And there's something so beautiful about that, and that's why I miss, our group practices over the years, because getting to come together and love each other from that place of humanness is what it's all about. And the moment that we elevate ourselves, or anybody elevates themselves as being healthier than, or less sinful than, or better than anyone else, then we've really lost our touch with humanity. So, what I appreciate, probably one of the things I appreciate most about Jesus and his teachings, was be with those who are sick, be with them, love love the sinner, be there for the sinner. So, we are in this time of and then recognize that we all have healing that's needed, every single one of us. And so anyhow, so I want to meet you guys in that place, that a place where we're not, feeling like we need to hide from, the mistakes of our past, and we don't need to have ultimately shame for the mistakes of our past. We can, we can love each other and really, seek to, embrace each other and each of our journey for healing. So I said that's what I really hope for, a place where we can meet each other as humans and sinners alike who are seeking redemption in this world, who are seeking God's healing and forgiveness. And so for me, that's where I find this idea where life for me is the most joyful, is when we can meet in that place. And love each other from that place. But that's not an easy thing for a lot of people to do, because a lot of people are carrying shame and they're afraid of it. They're afraid of their sin. They feel ashamed, and so I do believe that a lot of times part of what causes panic in others or fear in others is just this idea that, that they be known, that they be seen. And my teacher that I've studied with for so long, Shiva Ray, that was one of the things that she would always say, that our greatest fear is the fear of being seen, so that everything would be known about me. Can I say that isn't something that has scared me in my life, but do I recognize that, that's just reality, that God sees everything and he loves us. And so it doesn't mean that we need to go put it all on a billboard. That's not the point. But the point is that we should feel like we can open our hearts to each other. I mean, God, can you imagine a world where you didn't feel ostracized? And that instead you felt embraced and loved and accepted. That's the kind of world that I would like to get to, and I know that Jesus was teaching. But again, that's maybe a lofty ideal, but I believe that we can at least get there within our own communities in certain ways, and it may not be, the masses, but again, that's why I just so appreciate the practice of yoga, because it really encourages that. So once we get to resume with our community practices and things like that, I just pray that we can begin to feel that sense of connectedness again. So, and love for each other, and not look at each other like we're diseased or I've got to keep my 6 feet from you, So that's what I'm prayerful for. So anyhow, let's do a little practice, and I've got this puppy who hopefully isn't going to, oh my gosh, that's how you know your age, when you sit for a few minutes and you feel everything when you get up. So let's go ahead and just open our feet and get some movement here. So we're going to twist our spine, and then we're going to go ahead and bring our hands to our heart. So what I'd like to do is close our eyes and we're going to breathe deeply. So we're going to inhale and exhale. Okay, I'm going to start the yoga portion in just a moment. I'll be right back.